Hello? In this video, we will talk about scarcity, about why the feeling of lack seems normal, and how it affects the financial decisions that people make every day. This is not motivation and not advice on how to get rich quickly. This is an attempt to understand how thinking works when money constantly seems to be a problem. The feeling of scarcity seems normal for most people, not because there is not enough money in the world, and not because opportunities have disappeared, but because the human brain has learned to live in limitations and perceive them as a natural state. A person rarely thinks about why constant stress has become the background of life, why even with increasing income, peace disappears, why the desire for security almost always wins over the desire for freedom. This is not a coincidence. This is not a personal weakness. This is the result of how perception works. Scarcity does not start with the wallet. It starts with attention. From an early age, people are taught to view the world through limitations. Time is short. Money is scarce. Places are scarce. We need to compete. We need to choose safer. These messages are repeated every day. They are heard at school, in the family, in the news, in adult conversations. Over time, they become the background. The person stops noticing them, but the brain continues to react. Deficit ceases to be a temporary state. It becomes an expectation. When the expectation of scarcity becomes entrenched, thinking changes. A person begins to plan not from the perspective of growth, but from the perspective of avoiding losses. Avoiding problems seems more important than creating opportunities. Preserving what seems more sensible than taking risks for more. This is the key point. Here begins the difference between those who feel financial pressure constantly and those who maintain internal control. The human brain is not designed for long-term financial thinking. It is designed for survival, for quick response, to reduce uncertainty. In primitive conditions, this was an advantage. In the modern world, it often becomes a limitation. Financial systems work slowly. Changes accumulate over years. Results do not appear immediately. And the brain wants quick feedback. It wants to feel relief now. That is why scarcity is so effective in influencing behavior. It narrows the focus. It shortens the horizon of thinking. It reduces the ability to make strategic decisions. When a person lives in a sense of scarcity, they think less about the future. They think about the next payment, about the nearest expenses, about relieving tension. This does not mean that people are stupid. It means that their nervous system is constantly overloaded. Chronic scarcity creates chronic stress, and stress changes logic. In this state, small decisions seem more important than big ones. Small expenses are not perceived as a problem, and big opportunities seem dangerous. This is where the paradox appears. A person can understand that he is acting irrationally, but to continue acting in the same way, this is not weakness of will. This is automatism. Financial behavior is formed not by logic, but by emotional patterns. And scarcity is one of the strongest of such patterns. When scarcity becomes the norm, stability begins to be valued more than freedom. Predictable income seems better than potential. Regular expenses seem acceptable, even if they limit movement. This creates ideal conditions for stable systems. Predictable behavior is easy to scale, easy to predict, easy to monetize. When most people behave the same way, systems can work without resistance. Lending becomes safe. Subscriptions become reliable. Financial products become stable. Scarcity does not need to be imposed by force. It is enough to maintain it as a standard. When a person constantly hears that scarcity is normal, he stops questioning it. He adapts. He seeks a balance not between freedom and development, but between comfort and fear. That is why many people do not go beyond the usual scenario, even when they have potential. They do not feel that they are entitled to more, not because someone forbids them, but because their brain does not see a safe path. Safety becomes more important than opportunity. This is clearly visible in financial decisions. People avoid investments not because they are bad, but because they are associated with uncertainty. Uncertainty is perceived as a threat, even if the potential benefit far outweighs the risk. In a state of scarcity, the brain does not assess the risk-reward ratio. It responds to the feeling of danger. That is why many people choose stability, which slowly exhausts them over risk, which can change the trajectory of their lives. This mechanism is not a conspiracy. It is the result of the interaction of psychology and the structure of the environment. The financial system has no emotions. It does not punish or reward with intent. Thank you for watching this video to the end.